Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. I'm so glad to have you here. My name is Tara. I am a mom of 2 boys, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I make Montessori and motherhood videos here on my channel. I recently put out a question box on my Instagram and here on my YouTube community tab for you guys to ask me questions about our experience in the last year with my kids going to a Montessori school. So if you're new to my channel, my kids have now finished 1 year at a Montessori school. My youngest son is in the toddler classroom and my older son is in the primary class. So the toddler class is ages 18 months to 3 years, and then the primary class is for 3 to 6. Today's video is going to be just that Q&A style, and whenever I do Q&As, I do tend to also do a giveaway, so make sure you stay to the end of the video to see how you can enter. Okay, I've got all your questions right here, so let's jump into the video. The first question says, how can you tell if it is an authentic Montessori school? I think that this is a great question. So the first thing I would say, probably the easiest way, is to see if it is accredited. The top 2 accreditations are AMI and AMS, but there's also the MACT. So I would just ask that school, like, are you accredited? If so, what accreditation do you have? And then I would just look into that and see if that aligns with what you're looking for. The next thing I would want to know is, are your teachers Montessori trained, or are they in the process of getting their Montessori certifications? If the answer is no, that would sort of be a red flag for me, because I would definitely want a teacher who had those qualifications. And then the other things that you want to look for is the class self-led, or is it teacher-led? Like, do you see the teacher at the front of the classroom and kids in desks just listening, or do you see the kids interacting and doing shelf work and learning in small groups, or maybe individually with the teachers? And then also, speaking to the classroom, I would want to know if it's a mixed age classroom. If it's not a mixed age classroom, that's pretty clear to me that they're not really following the Montessori philosophy. So that would be another thing that I would want to see in a Montessori school that I would send my kids to. There's quite a few other things that I would look for in a Montessori school, but if I'm just talking about finding an authentic Montessori school, those are the things that I would look for. The next question says, I grew up Montessori until middle school, but always wondered what Montessori high school might look like. So this question I actually can't answer. The school that my kids attend only goes through junior high. I think they actually go up to 9th grade, so technically that's high school. But I have yet to see or find a Montessori school that goes through high school. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm just not familiar with them, and they're not in my area. But if anybody has experience with Montessori high school, I'd love to hear your experience with that. The next question is there anything you wish you would have done differently in preparing them to start the school? Less Montessori materials closer to the start, or more? Or what do you think helped them transition with ease? So we have been doing Montessori in our home since my oldest son was about 2. Before then, I didn't know that much about Montessori, but that's really when I started implementing more Montessori principles in our home, and I started introducing him to just things like practical life and then also some shelf work. So I can tell you, just based on my experience, how they did transitioning from being at home with this Montessori at home style to transitioning to a classroom, and they did really great. Both of their teachers have come to me and said that they had no issue with self-guided work. They had no issues with choosing their own work and actually cleaning up their own work. And even my son's primary teacher said that he adapted a lot quicker than some of the other first-year students. So this was his first year in a primary classroom or at a Montessori school at all, and he really took to the process of everything very quickly. And I do think that is because we were already doing that at home, and I thought that it was interesting that the teacher actually noticed that about him, that he was able to adjust to the style of the classroom a lot easier than some of the other first-year students who weren't doing the same Montessori guided materials and lessons and just like set up at home. I do want to say, I don't think it's necessary that you do Montessori at home to send your kid to a Montessori school. This past year, I've met so many other parents at the school, and the majority of them do not practice Montessori in their home, and their kids still really thrive at the Montessori school. And I will say that since my kids have been in school, we've really scaled back the amount of shelf work that we do at home. I would say we are probably doing 10% of the shelf work that we were doing before the kids were in school. They're just not as interested when they come in at the end of the day to continue to do that kind of work when they've been doing it all morning at school. So they come home and my kids are usually playing with Hot Wheels, monster trucks, Legos, blocks, really more open-ended things to kind of get that side of their brain going. They're really not doing that shelf work like we used to do before when they were homeschooled and, you know, because of the pandemic, they weren't going to a brick and mortar school. The next question is, what activities or works did your children most gravitate towards? I'm going to answer this part first. This is kind of a multiple part question. So, I don't know. When they're at school all day, I don't really get like a report of what they did. We had a couple of meetings with the teacher throughout the year and she did update me on what they've been learning, what they've been doing. I was told that my 4-year-old was somebody who wanted to do everything. So he was constantly moving around the room, trying a little bit of everything. So he wasn't somebody that was just staying in one location and only doing practical life or only doing math or something like that, but that he was constantly moving around the room and doing a little bit of everything. That being said, I obviously can see changes, so I know that he's really worked on numbers because his knowledge of numbers has really blossomed. The next part of that question is, did you find any parts of the process frustrating? Were there any areas in which the curriculum structure was more like a traditional classroom? And what was your favorite thing to witness as a parent? So at his school, it is an accredited Montessori school, and no, it's definitely not like a traditional classroom. I did get to observe the classroom one day and it was really amazing to just see how it all works. And it definitely was not like a traditional classroom that you think of where the teacher is at the front and all the kids are getting a lesson. It was just a lot of kids doing a lot of different things, a couple of group things happening over here, a lesson being given over here. And my son at the time when I did the tour, he was working on number rods, so that was kind of cool to get to see him do that. I think my favorite part was just being able to see him in the classroom, and he couldn't see me because I was behind like a two-way mirror, and it was just really great to observe the classroom and the structure and just see all the kids as they were learning and working. The next question I got was, are there any downfalls of Montessori or any parts of Montessori that you don't feel you align with? So yes, there are some critiques that I have about Montessori, and the number one critique I have is how much it costs. Now this isn't for all Montessori schools. There are some public Montessori schools. There are even some charter Montessori schools, although I'm not really familiar with them. But the majority of the Montessori schools that I have seen are private Montessori schools, and they can be quite expensive, which means they are not accessible to everyone. And I think that that's a downfall because I wish that Montessori was more accessible to the average person. There are a couple of Montessori schools in my area that specifically cater to lower income families, and I know that those schools are thriving, that the kids at those schools are thriving and they're doing really well in that environment. Maria Montessori started to serve these underprivileged kids in Italy, and this style of learning really worked for them. So we know that this kind of learning style can work for kids in all backgrounds, but I do think it's unfortunate that the kinds of kids that get access to Montessori schools are the kinds of kids that already have privilege and are already starting off ahead in their life, if that makes sense. So that is a downfall that I have of the American Montessori school system. So I am going to answer a couple of other misconceptions that I've seen said about Montessori, and one of them is that my child will not learn social skills in a Montessori classroom, and I think that that is beyond inaccurate. In fact, I think that Montessori does a better job of providing children with the tools that they need to work on their emotional intelligence. My son's primary class has something called a peace table. I think using something like a peace table is great to help teach children to resolve conflicts and really does help work on their social skills and their emotional intelligence. So I think that's totally a misconception. And the other misconception that I see a lot is that kids that go to Montessori schools are behind when they transition to a public school. I could speak on this particular topic for a really long time. It makes me really sad to see that teachers and adults are categorizing kids as being delayed or even categorizing them as being gifted. The fact that we expect all children to learn at the exact same time, learn the exact same thing at the exact same age, and then we judge them based on that. We are putting unnecessary pressure and guilt on a child by saying that they are delayed when really they're just working at their own pace. And that is the beauty of Montessori. In Montessori, kids are not compared to each other. There's actually this picture outside of my kids' school that says something like, everyone's growth looks different, and it has a picture of two plants, and one is a beautiful flower that is growing tall to the sun but it has a really small root system, and the other one is just this little tiny plant, but then when you look down, its roots are so far deep into the ground. Both of those plants are thriving, but they look different. And this is one of the reasons why I love Montessori, because everyone's growth does look different. In Montessori, you are not comparing one child to a peer. All the kids are not needing to reach the same milestones at the exact same time. Each child can work at a pace that works for them. Anyway, like I said, I could go on and on about this for hours, and I don't want to do that. So that is all that I have for today's video. And like I said earlier, there is going to be a giveaway. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to go over the giveaway. I am giving away a $25 Amazon gift card, and all you have to do to enter is just leave a comment down below. So I love meeting you guys. I'd love to hear where you're at on your Montessori journey and just get to know you guys. So let me know something about you in the comment box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That really helps out my channel. And if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe because I make new videos just like this every week. I will see you in my next video. Bye!